So welcome everyone, welcome attendees, welcome panelists. Thank you so much for joining today and taking the time to be with us on a Saturday. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Stucco and I am the founder and CEO of Prota Fiori, which is a sustainable luxury women's footwear brand. And I'm really excited to be here today to interview these very talented people. First, before we get into introductions, just a few housekeeping notes. Anytime during the session, feel free to ask any questions through the chat box. This is public. Everyone can see what you're saying, so be nice. We'll be starting the panel discussion for 30 minutes, and then we'll leave 10 minutes for Q&A, so your questions can be answered at the end. The session's recorded, and it will be available post-event. And follow us at GlamHive and engage socially and hashtag anything and everything you'd like. Also, just a quick thanks to our sponsor, Mary Kay. Mary Kay is a big supporter of female entrepreneurship and has been supporting the GlamHive Summit, so we're really happy to have them with us. Now I'll go into some introductions of who we are speaking with today. So first we have Moiz Ali, Riley and Andrew Day and LaShonda. And I will let them kind of give a little bit more of a thorough intro as to who they are in just a little bit. So the way that we'll have this session is we'll go through some questions and we'll go from there. So we'll start with just a little go around of everyone giving a thorough background of who they are. So I'll start with the first question. Today, photography feels like an important skill to have. The four of you are all subject matter experts in this field. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you approach the world of photography. So Mo, let's start with you.
Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for joining at what must be an early time for a lot of you. So sorry, you want me to give like a little bit of my background first?
Yeah, so please share your background and then how you approach photography, who you are, where you are, just a short description.
Okay, so the basics, I'm based in London. I'm based from there, but I travel a lot because my bread and butter is fashion weeks. So Europe's obviously a great place to be for that. My main type of photography is street style, I guess. So the kind of stuff you see people going in and out of shows, and then I do backstage at shows as well and some runway stuff. And then outside of Fashion Week, I do editorials for brands. And to be honest, anything that comes my way, especially now. So my background is not actually in photography. I studied engineering. So, you know, the natural progression into photography. And I went full-time in photography about 4 years ago. And how I approach it is I try to apply a street style lens to everything I do, even if it's like backstage or runway, or so in terms of how I compose a picture. So I guess you could say that's my general aesthetic, if that makes sense.
Very nice. Yeah, no path is straightforward, so I can understand that one. Thank you for giving us a little background. Riley, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I have lived in 6 countries and 15 cities, so I don't really subscribe to being from anywhere. Home right now is Austin, and I went to UVA, studied fine art there, but I was an athlete for 15 years first, so I'm with Mo on that. You know, we all transition in different ways, and change is the only constant. I am a multimedia storyteller, and I call myself a socially conscious photographer and artist. I also write. I'm a wellness editor. And really kind of spin around the camera to just express myself and try to solve the world's problems best I can. I am the creator of a business and brand called Woke Beauty, where I apply therapeutic photography and a unique perspective on how I make the subject feel comfortable in front of the lens. I work with brands as well, but most of the people who come to me have some kind of rite of passage or intention that they're trying to set an archive through photography. So my approach is a bit different. Even in fine art, I always was fascinated by the blend of sociology and photography. How can I get closer to someone through photography? I think by having a conversation, by really like digging into someone's story and kind of going beneath the surface, you can capture something more than just kind of, you know, a handshake, which is also an interesting photograph as well, just different.
Yeah.
So I really try to cultivate an experience that goes beyond just imagery.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and home is where the heart is anyway, not to sound cheesy, but it doesn't have to be a
We
one
need
spot.
cheesy.
So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
And Andrew?
Oh God. Okay, well, I'm really impressed by you guys. I'm like, oh wow, I feel like I'm doing nothing. But as far as like my story goes, I can relate to a little bit of, I think, everything I've heard so far. I mean, in engineering makes perfect sense to me. I mean, going into photography, it's a very technical profession, and I think a lot of the guys that started out, as far as like the history of photography goes, were really just honestly great scientists and problem solvers. And I think to this day that makes a great creator like in the visual arts. And I too, what sport did you play in college?
So I played tennis. I actually was homeschooled for the majority of my teenage years, training professionally, and then decided to swerve and went to UVA and played for a year, and then kind of amidst that pretty much fizzled out and like went straight into fine art. So yeah, I was in Florida and like kind of all over, just like, you know, training in a completely different way, and then UVA, which was a very fun school, as we discussed. But
yeah.
tennis.
Well, and you must have, and their sports programs are no joke. I mean, you have to be dedicated and talented. Yeah. Well, I played swimming as well too.
Andrew,
and I
why
think
don't
like
you tell us about your photography too?
I am. So I think like the reason I got into photography was I've been involved in team sports my whole life. And I think that through photography, I find it's a very collaborative like effort for me, especially commercially. And I like that. I like being a part of a team. I like feeling like I can help. And that's it. And I realized, you know, on a commercial perspective, it's kind of, you know, you need to steer that ship, but you can't do it alone. So that's what I think is like very comforting to me. And then during this time, I've kind of stripped everything down and really just tried to focus on less and people and portraiture and making things just as simple as possible.
I love that. I love your inspiration from sports. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. I because it doesn't seem natural. Like maybe even, you know, like you might not think engineering is a transition or tennis, but so I tried to discover that as much as I could and try and figure out why I'm here and why I'm doing this. And that's the best I can figure out.
Very cool. And LaShondra, last but not least.
Yes, so my name is LaShondra Young. I am from Mobile, Alabama, and I am not a photographer, but I am behind the lens. And of course, I didn't play any sports, but I was in the band. And you know, with me being in the band, that allowed me to be very expressive and I guess very creative as well. And that kind of, I guess, manifested itself with me taking pictures of my outfits. So I began to study how to take pictures, maybe about 10 years ago. And here I am, 2021. I've been, featured on the cover of People Style Watch. I've been featured in, I've been on the cover of Red Book magazine, in People Style Watch magazine, worked with Neutrogena and all those great brands. And it was always because they wanted me to take a picture of an outfit or take a picture of me holding a product. And I think it's because of the way I express myself behind the lens. So that's where I got my, I guess, inspiration from. And I played the flute, by the way.
I love it. Well, I love how all of your answers we're similar in a way that you paved your own path and you found your purpose and your passion through something unrelated directly to photography.
Right.
But essentially it was all about expressing yourself or someone else helping them do that. So very
Right.
beautiful. Next question, actually, LaShondra, I would love to ask you this one first.
Okay.
So interestingly, many stylists are so used to being behind the camera, like you just mentioned, and are so client focused that they forget the weight of their own Instagram accounts and how much they carry. For all the stylists that are listening to this conversation, what are your pro tips for how to maximize your social media?
How to maximize your social media. I have a very quick story. I'll well, this brand contacted me and said, "Hey, we love your personality. We'd love for you to work with us." I said, "Great." And they gave me clips on how they wanted me to present the brand or what have you. And I was trying so hard to do what they sent me, or trying to, I guess, I don't know, copy, so to speak, what they sent me. I was forgetting to be myself. And so the marketing manager contacted me and said, "LaShondra, the reason why we want you is because you're so bubbly and you're so, bright. That's what we want." And I was like, "Oh God, thank you. I can be myself." So the moment I started, being myself, yes, yes, this is what we want. Yes, give us more, give us more. And to me, I thought I had to change the way I talk because I'm from the South. I have this drawl to my, the way I speak, but they loved it, and they loved the way that I smiled, and they loved the way that I laughed. So for me to encourage other stylists or influencers is to me, the best way to maximize your accounts is to be yourself, like to literally be yourself and to post every day. So, whatever your self is, be that. If you country like me,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Be country.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Be country.
Yeah.
If you are goofy, be that goofy person.
Yeah.
If you're nerdy, be that nerdy person. So,
Yeah.
the best advice, and you know, and and it's another one that I hear all the time, which is fine, which is to be consistent. Yes, being consistent is important, but I think being yourself is maybe number one.
Yeah.
And then being consistent is being number two.
Yeah, I like your advice. I'm going to take it. I've been behind the camera really for the first time with Andrew. Andrew's my photographer for Prota Fiore.
Right.
And this is a lesson that I've been speaking to a lot lately, is just to be yourself, and being vulnerable is not always the easiest thing. Riley, I'd be interested to hear your perspective on this, just because you're showing the beauty, like you said, of so many different types of people that are, in different phases of their life. How do you bring it out in them?
Yeah, so I think that your reality is based on your perspective. And so all of my sessions actually begin with a conversation. So I call it like a soul reveal, or even like a consult. It's a type of consultation, right? Where I'm like trying to better understand who it is I'm going to photograph, where they are in their life, and how they would like to transcend that. And so, I really work to be really just like thoughtful, and even in the shoot to be really vocal. I'm as much a director as I am a photographer. I'm sure everyone here might relate to that. Though some people's style is more on the wall, I'm dealing with people who, some of them have never been photographed professionally in their life. So they need to be reminded, that they're in a safe space and everything's okay, So, yeah. So I think, the thing is, when it comes to identity, a lot of us are still, maybe constantly evolving. And so it's not always clear, what phase you were in, or how you're feeling, or what you're going through. And so if you can have someone that you can rely on and trust to kind of like hold your hand through that process, I think, it can be really transformative. And so I don't know if I'm necessarily skilled at that, and just I'm comfortable and happy to like be here and bear witness, So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andrew, I'm going to throw this question at you. I mean, you've worked with really big companies, and actually Mo, you as well, so maybe you can chime in after Andrew, like Maybelline, Victoria's Secret, Ralph Lauren, but then you also have been working with, you know, individuals like myself who've just started a brand that don't have that established brand identity yet. Can you talk about the difference between the skills that you need to use as a photographer working with a company that gives you the guidelines as to how to shoot, what to shoot, versus a new brand or a new individual that is just starting out, and how you do that? Because that's a really hard skill, or that's a really tough thing to do, I think, because they're very different skill sets.
It is. I mean, I think what it varies so greatly, and even you may think that the two are vastly different if a company's just starting or if a company's been established and international and been global for 20 years. It's interesting because communicating the story is the greatest deal, and understanding that. I mean, there are kind of like logistical parts that I struggle with like reading Excel spreadsheets, and you know, some companies put stuff out, and actually many do, but I need to break it down kind of in my own way and put my own visual storyline to it. So I think that can also vary for the creator. Like, what environment do you respond best in, and how can you best lead and help create that image? And then, like, going back, I don't know if this is a different question, but going back to like what LaShondra said about being yourself, I've had that table turned on me. When I first started out, I thought, and I was doing a very good job at it, I think, but making like a brand look like a brand. And, you know, over time I had the table turned on me, and people would say, and as I did more personal work, and they'd say, well, we don't want to get in the way of your vision. And I go, oh, wait, what is my vision? So
Right.
that's a constant process too, of like understanding, you know, who you are, what you're doing here, why does it matter, or why does anybody care? It's a very tough question to ask yourself, but I think if the brands and creators can do that alike, it's a tough question, but I think often a very, 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 very simple answer.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah.
Sorry, I want to hear Mo's perspective, but I was just going to say something that made me think of is I feel like sometimes, you know, a brand's coming and what they want from you is like your flavor, you know, your style, your aesthetic, and they have like a content vision, you know, so it's tricky, but it's almost like in a way you as the creator act as like a liaison from like the vision, the stuff, you know, and like how you're going to apply that to what it is you already do. Because I know what you're talking about too, where you get like those, you know, packets from, you know, or it's like, you know, they have like their full on brief. And it's like, well, what about me? Like you came from my portfolio, you know, but it's like you throw everything into a blender and then,
So,
and it can be intimidating.
It can be intimidating, but I think it can be terribly fun as well too. And figuring out how, I mean, because things change. And I go back to like even the documentary, the September issue, and Grace Coddington, who she said, you know, we don't even know what it's going to be like half the time ourselves. We put all this thought and process into it, and we still have to get there and create it. And, you know, things happen. Sometimes you have to adapt and change to that, but it's exciting to see where it comes out.
Very nice. Yeah, all of the themes are tied together. Essentially, they're coming to you for your vision. They'd like to apply your vision to what their vision is what it sounds like. Mo, I'd love if you'd like to touch on that as well. If not, we can move on. Do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of echoing what everyone has said. But I have I've had experiences with like, so Andrew will be able to relate to like Maybelline, who have like a 12-page PowerPoint presentation of exactly how the shot should be, like for backstage pictures, because they're that type of photography. They're just there, like they need to capture, they're the sponsor, they need to capture the look, and they just need to convey a very specific message. But then like doing an editorial for a brand, sometimes they'll have you know, they'll have like their art direction, and they'll give it to you and say, okay, now we want you to apply your perspective on this art direction. So like keep this in mind, but still your perspective. And then I have some clients who will start like that. So at Fashion Week, my style of street style is like a little bit unusual, I think. And so I'll get brands that will say, "Oh, we want you to shoot your style," and then after like the first day, they'll be like, "Can you maybe like just do a bit more of this?" And then they'll send me something that's completely not my style.
Yeah.
So there's like there has to be a lot of flexibility, I think. And then the other thing that happens is sometimes it changes as they're doing. I was on a shoot recently where I was actually just the BTS photographer, but then they kept changing their mind about what they wanted, that by the end of it, some of my shots for BTS ended up in the main shots, and it was a completely different style. So I feel like a lot of the time brands don't always know what they want,
Yeah. I can
and they're
understand
also
that.
kind of winging it.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be the voice of reason sometimes.
Yeah, I think flexibility is like a very important
Yeah.
characteristic to have when
Yeah.
shooting or even being shot. Yeah.
That's good advice. Thank you. And then leading into our next question, Mo, I'd love to ask you this one. What does it mean to have authentic content? Can you describe the difference between photography that feels true to the brand and the person versus not? And what are the ways a person can go about achieving authenticity so that it doesn't feel so staged? And I'd love for you really to answer this one because you are the master of street style. And I really would love to know, like from A to Z, how does that happen? From who are you shooting? How are they styled? Where are they? What's the operational process of these shots that you do? They're so cool.
Thank you.
Well,
I mean, from like a street style perspective at Fashion Week, you can tell who is dressed their own style versus who has been paid to wear an outfit. Because they either like they don't look comfortable or it's not their style, or they're literally wearing the brand head to toe and they haven't. So what I like is when someone has added like their own personal style to that look. So whether it's like if someone really is really big on their accessories, then you can see that they've added like a cool little touch somewhere, and then you're like, okay, yeah, that's unusual or that's original. I've not seen that kind of styling before. So I think that's really important. And then just being consistent, as Lashandra touched on earlier, being yourself, but also being consistent. So being consistently yourself.
yeah.
And you can kind of tell when, like, the creators that I like to work with or brands that I like to work with, that you can kind of you can pick out their image without even seeing that it's like their name on it. So like I like, hypothetically, I look at a picture of like Riley and be like, yeah, like I know who shot that, or I know she shot that, or she had control over that image. And I like, personally, like that's when I know that this is something they really put their thought into, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. And what are some of the tricks of your trade? Getting a good photo.
I think, well, I mean, I don't know who here, like from the attendees and panelists, who's been at Fashion Week and seen like it's quite a circus. So for me personally, I like to try and capture the most the whatever show like reflects the moment that you're in. So like I like to get the chaos of street style in the shot, so you can tell like what's going on, and like the hustle and bustle of going to the shows and stuff like that. I find that a really interesting and accurate reflection of what's going on. And then from like a style point of view, I personally really like shooting details. So I really like how people accessorize things, whether it's like with a bag or a belt or jewelry or whatever. So I like to focus on that. So I think, yeah, tips of the trade would just be like, find something you like to focus on and then focus on that.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I'd love to ask all of you. So what is your relationship? I guess Mo, Riley, and Andrew, you guys can answer this one, and Lashandra will have a different take because she is more of this on the stylist side. But what's your relationship with the stylist when you are arranging for a photo shoot? Do you prefer to have a stylist, to not have a stylist. I think I'm anticipating this will go back to authenticity and being true to yourself. And as long as that comes through, you're set up to take some really great photographs. But how does it work? Do you suggest stylists that you like to work with when you're shooting? Just kind of talk us through that. Maybe Riley, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. It's an interesting question to answer for me because I play a lot of different roles in my career. So, I have woke beauty, and then I also do self-portraiture and content creation. And then I'm also a model and an actress. So I've worked on, pretty big sets as just purely talent, where I have like no say, which I just have to like turn off that side of my brain completely and just like, be the subject, which is a bit difficult. It's just like a completely different setup, And then I also work with brands where they like will literally send me product and I have creative direction to shoot it myself on myself. So I have like a few photographers who are almost just like camera operators, and then I kind of just tell them what to do. And typically I style those myself. And, based on a mood board that I might be sent or whatever conversation we have. And then I work as just the photographer as well. So in that space, typically I do like to bring on a stylist just because I already play so many roles. I think it's really important for the stylists who are watching too, I think it's really important, and this goes back to consistency and continuity as well, to do what you do really well, in whatever role it is that you're playing, because when you start to add into that, it can take away from, your light. And so, I think that I'm a better photographer if I'm working with a professional stylist. Like, even though I like to think that I might be a stylish person, it's not my profession at all. And sometimes I have no idea where. So yeah, I like to bring in someone who really gets it. And then I also think that puts more faith into the brand or the subject if I'm working on the woke beauty side. So yeah, I would say it kind of depends on the role, but ultimately in each space, I think it's best to just do what you've been hired to do,
absolutely.
And then, delegate elsewhere. And I feel like now in this modern day, especially now, like with COVID, people who hire you, they want you to do everything, like the more you can do, the better. Like, how much can I get from you, But I think if you put your foot down and say like, no, you've hired me to do what I do well, you've hired me.
The results will be different.
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah. Well, we only have a few minutes left, but Andrew, I'd love for you to touch on this question too, because I've thrown the challenge at you by being my own stylist and own figure behind camera, and you dealt with that really well. But then you also work with stylists. So what's your process like?
Well, one thing, sorry, if there's like some landscaping in the background, so sorry if you guys can hear that. But one thing that works well with you in doing that and building your own brand with where you are is that is your voice and that is who you are. You have your Italian heritage, you have heirlooms from your family, and you do have good personal style. Like when it comes to portraiture, I love working with people's personal style because that says so much about them. That is who they are. I was talking to my clients for next week, and they're the owners of their company, and I was talking to them about even like myself. Like, I think everybody has kind of like that one outfit that is there. Like, I have my "this is Andrew Day" look, that I have, where if I don't know what else to do or what to go to, if I don't have any creativity or all my laundry's dirty, I'm like, I know I have a few things I can put together that says like, this is me. But so for a person like you and a brand like you, I mean, I think that, and during this time, I think that makes a lot of sense to bring what you have, because you're creating a product that came from your heart. It came from your own eat, pray, love moment. And that all those things are what they need to be. And as far as like working with teams commercially and editorially, I think they are kind of everything about it, especially the way that to me, the most important thing is how they approach and respond to like how they problem solve. I think means a lot to me. And also how collaborative they are. If it's a styling team member.
Collaboration, flexibility, like Mo said.
Sure. Yeah. And coming from a place of inspiration, there's a lot of people that have created or come to the table to create, I think, for an idea that they think is grand and going to be wild and over, and really people are going to be really wowed and awed by it. But I don't know, from my perspective, I like to break things down and understand, start with the simplest things and like say, okay, why is this here? And why are we doing that? And not just to be more is more.
Yeah.
But that's my personal perspective.
Seems to go back to the why.
Yeah. Why, which I struggle with day to day why I do anything.
Yeah.
But,
everyone is consistently searching for the why.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for all of your answers.
Thank you.
And now we have about 10 minutes for Q&A. So everyone that's listening, please send your questions through. We do have a question already from one of the attendees, Courtney Smith. And her question is, what are some qualities that photographers look for when it comes to working with a stylist? How do we market to photographers? Who would like to answer that? Go for it.
Okay, yeah, I love to hear from stylists, and what a lot of people do. I actually have, I get emails from stylists, and they just update me with their work, whether it's red carpet or new campaigns, and they just sending pictures of their work to people you want to work with. I think it's a great way to market. What was the other part of the question? What do you look for?
How do stylists market themselves to
Yeah.
photographers? How do they get noticed by you?
I mean, yeah, one of the easiest, I think it's completely free. You can market to so many people. Go to their websites. I have a studio email that's fielded by me and some of my team members. And I check that regularly, and I love getting updates from other creatives and what they're working on. Same thing with agencies. I think you can go find agencies and reach out to them. I've done everything like kind of traditional. Of course, all of the social media platforms are great, but I've gone pretty traditional with my approaches, calling and emailing and just saying hello.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I've always been a big advocate of just reaching out to anyone when you're interested to get to know them, no matter who they are, where they are, and what they do. So you are your best advocate in the end. Next question. What are some ways to keep your IG fresh when you aren't good at selfies, like myself? Lashandra, would you like to answer this one?
Of course. Videos. Quick videos. They don't have to be 30 seconds long. Just do you a quick video or like a GIF. I think you can make like a quick, especially if you have an iPhone, and if you use your live photos, you can actually implement that as a GIF on your Instagram. So if you're afraid of selfies, do quick videos, and there are thousands of apps that you can make yourself look fresh and bright.
Right. But we might not, we want to look fresh naturally too, right?
Please.
Yeah.
Do not overuse the filters. Do not. I'm not a big fan of filters. Right. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of filters, but if you must use one, just keep
the
it
lighting
on the
maybe. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. A few touches to keep it fresh. And what about boomerangs? How do you feel about boomerangs?
I personally don't do a lot of boomerangs because it doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, they're okay.
Right, because we're kind of going like, okay, what are we looking at? So instead of a boomerang, try to opt for, again, that 3-second or 5-second video. Yeah. Just to show your followers, who you really are.
That's a good tip. Thank you. Next question from Christy Day. Do you enjoy collaborating and testing with various industry professionals on a regular basis? Anyone who would like to answer that one? Is this a relative Andrew Day or another Day?
Yeah, I think that's my sister.
I love it. Well, would you like to answer your sister's question, or would anyone like to answer Christy's question?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I definitely think collaborating and testing with other professionals is the best way to grow and evolve. And it's, for example, if you want to try and get into a new type of photography, then like let's say you want to move into beauty photography, then you could reach out to a makeup artist and shoot something interesting together, or if you want to do something more editorial, then, you know, reaching out to a stylist, you know, going back to working with a stylist, just reaching out and saying, hey, let's do, you know, like an editorial or something. I think some really interesting things can come from collaborating like that. So I think it's really important to be open to that.
Great. Andrew, would you like to answer?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking to do that constantly. I do try and allocate a certain amount of time. And for me, I figure if I can get like kind of one project per month that's personal, done, whether that's a series, a small series, or a big project in concept. I mean, that's, depending on what's going on, it can be a lot, but that's kind of my goal. But sometimes I get more done accidentally. But I think it's important to do constantly.
Yeah, that makes sense, because you're always challenging yourself then to work in different ways with different people. Thank you. We have another question from Nora. Do you always need a mood board for every project? Who would like to answer this one?
I think it's, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think it's good to have some type of layout. So, because a lot of times, well, I know for me anyway, I have all these things going on in my head. And if you're like me, you're going to forget. So I think mood boards are important, especially for the theme that you're trying to go for. So definitely, you know, use those mood boards, use those layouts, and, you know, use what you have in your hand all the time, your phone. You have a note section in your phone, you know, use that to take notes. You know, when something coming in your head, or like this great idea, put it in your phone and always, you know, go back to it, you know, for reference.
That's very Steve Jobs of you, LaShondra. He used to have a black notebook, right? He would write down a word here or there. Whenever an idea comes, just write it down, because you don't remember it sometimes.
Yeah.
We only have a couple of minutes left. So would anyone else like to touch on that question?
Yeah, I would. For mood boards, I mean, you can do it any way you want, but I think they are great. And it kind of goes back to like steering the ship and keeping, if you're working with a team or even yourself, like keeping your project steering in the right direction. And I see a lot of mood boards, and a lot of times the imagery can vary. Because a lot of times it's something that is actually everything you want to certain in a single image, to be referencing it helps
Andrew,
like
I think we might be losing
imageries all
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can everyone hear?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Go ahead, sorry.
My bad. Yeah, I was just saying, I think it helps to identify and focus on what your imagery is for. So if it, you know, have stuff specifically for hair or specifically for makeup, because like the imagery can vary so greatly. So I think it helps to communicate to the people you're working with, you know, is this for accessories only? Because they could be wearing a mohawk.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I don't want to shoot mohawks.
Communicate the direction with everyone involved.
Yeah. Or I don't want to cut my hair into a mohawk. Okay, great.
Yeah, I love it. Great answer. Well, that
I'd love to insert really quick.
Yeah, sure.
I also think mood boards, it doesn't necessarily have to be imagery based. You can draw mood from a film, you can draw mood from a book, you can draw mood from something that you just see in real life, you know? And so I think sometimes we can get so like myopic and, you know, put stuff on a poster or use Pinterest or whatever. And I love Pinterest, but I think it's really important to like tune into what's around you and what inspires you, and kind of like think outside the box in that way. So I just wanted to
that's a really great point.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Color schemes. You could do a color scheme. It could be movies. And keywords I think are really great to convey moods.
Yeah. Very true. As we're speaking about this, I was just showing Andrew my like favorite Sophia Loren book that I pull a lot of inspiration from for the brand. So books are really good. Okay, well, we're a little bit over. Thank you to all of the panelists. I think that was a really nice conversation. I think there were a lot of consistent themes that came up. Consistency, authenticity, being true to yourself, whether you're behind the camera or on the other side of the camera. And knowing that when people want to work with you, it's for your vision to be applied to theirs in some sort of way. So great answers, everyone. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you,
Bye
Stucco.
bye.
Thank you, Glam Hive.